All right, let's see here. It should all be working now. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to push another button here and get this thing started on this other place here. And boy, I got questions, and well, I've also got answers, I think. Let's see here. There we go. That's good enough. Let's just push that button. Make sure that starts up for us. All right, so if you got a question for us, make sure you post it in the chat. I got some folks watching them. They'll make sure to get your questions in here so I can get them answered for you. So I'm not going to waste any time. We're just going to get right down to it. I recently moved my spell book to the cloud, but I'm worried about hexers. Do you have any advice on how to keep it safe? Well, the best thing is really just about internet safety. I would like to tell you that there's some wizardy way to help protect it. You good, something to spoof your location. You got to change your passwords frequently. Make sure you don't open any unwanted emails. Really nothing wizardly to do anything about it. So, you just got to be smart. Don't fall for any of the schemes your parents fall for. Don't share your passwords, all that stuff that they tell you. My friend said he can polymorph anything, but only into itself. How can I check if he's lying? Okay, well, that's an easy one. So all you got to do is do a ritual. Set up some crystals, really. That's my favorite way. You can get some crystals set up so they glow when there's magic in the area. And when he says he's done it, if the crystal glows, then you know that there's magic going on in the area, and he's just not a big, filthy liar. I ran out of Eye of Newt. What can I use as a substitute? Okay, so this is real easy. Most people don't realize this. Eye of Newt is mustard seed. Plain and simple. So all you got to do, if you are out of Eye of Newt, go buy some more mustard. Yeah. You can boil it down and get it to kind of a mustard concentrate and use that. But it also kind of comes down to the type of spell you're doing. If you're doing a spell that you think the mustard seed is there because it's got some anger, some bitterness, that's what mustard seed adds. Eye of Newt adds a little bit of bitterness to your spell, to your magic. So you can use bitters, like alcohol, in replacement. You can use sometimes some citrus rind. Really anything just gives you a bitter taste. I know what some of you are thinking, don't use that. That's how you make a homunculus, and we don't want no homunculi running around. Are vampire police officers allowed into my home if they have a warrant? Technically, yes. But they're still going to try to trick you into inviting them in. They're going to be like, hey, I got a warrant. I can search your house. Wouldn't it be polite of you to invite me in since you know I have this warrant? That's the thing you got to watch out for vampires. People don't think about this a whole lot. Vampires, they're so dedicated to manners. And that's why. They're relying on those manners for you to invite them in because that's the polite thing to do. So even if a almost said a Dracula, but if a vampire cop has a warrant, they still need the words to come in, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what kind of stuff you're doing that maybe you shouldn't be doing. Let's see here. Does it take 25 centaurs to make a quartar, or only 4? I don't like that question, and I refuse to answer it. I think the demon I did a deal with is in breach of contract. What are my options? Well, if you've got a good contract, and odds are if you're working with a demon, you've got a good contract, it's fine print. If he's in breach of contract, every single movie, every TV show where someone gets away with something with the devil or a demon, it's because that demon's in breach of contract. They did something they said they weren't going to do, or they switched things around. It's very, very, very important to make sure you read your wording, read the fine print, get a lawyer, unless, of course, the lawyer also happens to be the demon that you're dealing with. Then get a different demon or a different lawyer, but you never want a demon lawyer being on the same side. You want them on opposite sides of one another, or at least 2 on each side. But yeah, you can really take it straight to them. That's the thing. If you talk to a demon and you point out, hey, this is in breach of contract, it's kind of like with Fae, how you can't exactly get them to lie, but they can kind of weave around the truth. If you point out breach of contract to a demon, it's caught. It has to admit it. You know, if you're, hey demon, if you're in breach of contract, you got to tell me. It's kind of like the whole hidden cop thing. Let's see here. My house is haunted by the ghost of someone who died in 1989, and they won't stop singing the Proclaimers' I'm Gonna Be 500 Miles. How do I get rid of them, or at least get them to sing something else? The way you could get rid of them is an exorcism. I mean, that's the easy way, but it depends on if they're good singers. Like, is it like a lot of people who are not very good at singing, or is it, some people who sound pretty good? Because then all you got to do is, if all they'll sing is that one song, you just got to grab a hold of something else that's a better earworm, and you play that, and they're going to hear it. And whether they like it or not, it's going to get stuck in their head, and they're going to start singing that instead. That specific time period, there's a whole list of kind of 80 songs that you could play, and people will get it stuck in their head, and it would just get them to switch over, and I think that once you got them used to that for a while, you could almost kind of treat them like an 80s jukebox. You just play a song, they hear a little bit of it, you stop, and they're just going to carry on with it. It might only work for 80s songs, but I mean, that ain't so bad. But otherwise, you just do an exorcism. How do I train my dragon clicker? That's the best way I found is, just click and little treats. They really love that. And you don't want to train through punishment. Sometimes you're going to be, oh man, I want to punish this dragon. It's done some bad things. It spat fire on my clothes, or it went to the bathroom in the house, or it made a nest in the chimney, whatever. And you're going to want to be upset, but it doesn't learn from that. You gotta give positive reinforcement. Let's see here. My car was parked by Indiana Repertory Theater when the ground collapsed, and only recently have I learned that it was not a sinkhole, but doing of that Hammer and Lightning guy I had seen on TV and his devious friends. Might I be entitled to compensation? Also, where could I get the number for the cute one? I don't know which one is the cute one. My understanding is that is highly debated amongst anybody who knows at all what you're talking about. You take a vote and it's split 20, how many people there are. Ultimately, it comes down to, do you have act of God? In your insurance. Act of God. I mean, a guy with a hammer, and he's been given that hammer by God. There's nothing more act of God than that. Him coming down with a hammer and lightning and smashing something. So, if your insurance covers act of God, you should be okay. If you're not, that's how they get you. You got to make sure you sign up for that kind of stuff in your insurance here. All right. My girlfriend's time of the month always seems to be at the full moon. Time of the month is in quotation marks, so I'm going to assume that means her monthlies. How do I tell if she is a werewolf, and what would that mean for the relationship? So, I mean, if you want to tell if she's a werewolf, ask. That's important. You're in a relationship. Open communication is important. That's the backbone of any good relationship. I would just ask. But if you want to be sneaky about it, put some kind of, tracker spell on her. You could scry on her. But be careful. You never know what you're going to catch when you scry on somebody. Like, you want to know exactly where they are before you scry on them, because you never know what you're going to see. So make sure you know exactly where they're going to be at before you look, because you might regret it. As for what does this mean for the relationship, look, there's been this whole series of, movies and books and stuff where somebody's dating a werewolf, or they're dating, a vampire or some kind of monster. And there's this buildup of like, oh my gosh, I just learned that this person's a monster. Are they going to turn me? How do I feel about it? That ain't the case. Like, if we all took a moment right now and thought about it. If you found out right this second that your significant other, your partner, is a supernatural creature and they have the ability to turn you, you know right away, like, yeah, I'm into that, or no, I don't want anything to do with this. So, what it means for your relationship, I mean, I think you know already before asking this question. You just want me to say, yeah, it's okay that you want to become a werewolf too. And it is okay. It's pretty cool. I mean, I wouldn't know. I've got werewolf friends, though, and they seem to really love it. They get a lot done. All right, I'm going to try to scroll here to see the other questions. I got a document here, but I don't think it's updating. So, oh, let's see here. I found a jar of Giant's toenails in the back of my cupboard, but the expiration date must have worn off. How can I tell if they're still good? I mean, they're never good, but they don't go bad. They don't go like worse than they already are. That's the nice thing about, toenails, hair of whatever, anything that's just kind of clumps of dead cells. As long as it's still something you can pick up and it doesn't crumble, it'll still be good. A lot of times you're using giant toenails in, as a stir, and it kind of dissolves it anyway, so that's okay. But yeah, as long as you're picking them up and they aren't crumbling, they should be fine. Let's see here. Dijon or Grey Poupon. Oh, this is back to the mustard. I think Grey Poupon, I think Dijon mustard's got a little bit too much added in it to make it a good substitute for Ionute. I have a painting that takes on all my bad deeds so I can be young and beautiful forever, but it's pretty ugly. Can I just paint over it? I would test that on a very small area first, because the problem is that you might try to paint over it, and that paint might appear on you. It might be the opposite. So like you're taking all this whatever liver damage or corruption of your persona, and it's appearing on this painting and making it look real bad. It might be that whatever you do to that painting happens to you. It could be a two-way street. So you want to test that first to make sure that you know if that is or isn't happening. That's really important when you deal with the magic of, hey, this thing's taking over something for you. Make sure it's not an open channel going both ways, because you'll get in a lot of trouble that way. If you, oh man, this painting's ugly, I'm going to paint over it, and all of a sudden now you've got this paint on you that either is like hovering in front of you and just obscuring everything, or it just becomes you, or all kinds of problems come up from it. I do want to take a moment. You see I've got this scroller going along here at the bottom. We're doing this this one night only wizard advice because I'm helping out with them getting the Kickstarter going for No Normal Life, which is about one of my clients, Anastasia, and her friend Lana, and about their travels together. And I give them some pretty good advice along the way. And so they thought it might be a good idea for me to share some of my advice with all of you, because again, the wizard community, monster community, all that stuff, a lot of stuff is still hidden, a lot of stuff is still unknown, and some of it is a lot simpler than you'd think. Okay, so these are all, I'm gonna refresh this, see if I got anything new on here. I don't. That's probably a me problem. But luckily, I can indeed just read the chat. Question: I'm also a wizard, but some jerk keeps moving my home, a nice cozy jar, to the forest for no discernible reason. How do I get them to stop? Well, there's a couple of different ways I would deal with that. Is one, get some legs for that jar. You let that jar walk around with you inside of it. That's just nice. I mean, Baba Yaga had the right idea. A house that can move, When it's like, oh, I don't like what's going on here. Oh, the weather's bad. Oh, I'm restless. Oh, the grass needs mowed. Whatever reason you're moving, it just pick up and goes. A lovely thing. Um, Now, if you want to deal more specifically with this person, you could put an enchantment on your jar. That way, when they touch it, something bad happens to them. It seems like you know who they are already, so you don't need to put like a magical die pack on it to find out who they are. Um, Boy, you can get enchantments when someone touches something that they're not supposed to touch. You can get them to do all kinds of things. You get them to, go jump in the nearest body of water. You get them to cluck like a chicken. You get them to put the jar back. That's the simplest one. Um, and then they get kind of worse from there. Um, so yeah, you can either put a spell on it to protect it from being moved. You could put something on it, whether that be alchemy or necromancy or some kind of weird mix of druid magic and chicken chickenology to give it legs. Uh, or well, those are really the two best options. That's what I would go with. I would go with the chickenology, or I would go with the. I mean, technically, I guess they're both kind of chickenology because give it chicken legs so it moves away, or get it so they touch it and they think they're chicken. That's kind of fun. So yeah, it's chickenology all the way down. Let's see here. I found. Oh, I'm back. Oh, I need to fix something. Uh, hmm. Yeah. Well, I can't. Yep. There we go. Let's see if this fixes my problem. Done. All right. Um, how? Oh wait, nope. That's not the next question. Gotta go in order. Uh, Rick, I love your jacket. Thank you. Does it have secret wizard pockets, or is it a normal jacket because you don't need those? It is a wizard jacket. It does not really have secret pockets. It's a wizard jacket just because it looks pretty badass. And that's really what most wizards want is a good jacket. Now, it does have pockets. It's got pockets on the inside. It's got pockets on the outside. That's the thing though. I mean, it's a weird situation because, witches they get so excited when their stuff has pockets and wizard stuff just comes with pockets. It's weird. It's weird. I don't know why they make stuff so differently for witches and wizards. Let's see here. How did you gain so much wizard knowledge? Well, a lot of time, a lot of trial and error, um, a lot of trial and error, but mostly just learning from other people, traveling, having to come up with stuff on the fly. Necessity is the mother of invention, and like just enough magical stuff, but you don't have the right stuff on hand. So then you make do with what you got, and you find out, oh, this actually kind of works too. So that kind of helps out that way. Um, let's see here. Do. How many days are left in their Kickstarter? Okay. How many days are left in the Kickstarter, and what do I get if I back it? So there are. Let me refresh this page here. There are 8 days left. For the Kickstarter, and they are 75% funded. And there's all kinds of stuff you can get. You can get stickers and a zine that has like a bunch of stuff in it, art and games and stuff. You can get a mystery ran for you by this guy who runs a Monster of the Week game. There are some sponsorship slots where you get your commercial for whatever it is that you want to promote maybe you want to send somebody a special message or something, built into one of the episodes, and I'll read that commercial for you. We're also going to do some special episodes of Dial a Wizard. I'm the wizard. And so I'll spend a little more time kind of delving into each person's question in that tier and give them a more thorough answer than just kind of what's coming off the cuff right now. But then there's also, you also have the chance you could sponsor Dial a Wizard, which I would personally love. I would love to have a sponsor. Or you could sponsor the whole season and you get an ad inside of all the episodes. Yeah, that's kind of stuff. And we got 8 days. We're going to go out to San Francisco here in a couple days and advertise it there for a bunch of like-minded folk. Every time I try to set something like tools or dice out in salt water on the night of a full moon to get purified, raccoons steal it. Any tips? Well, so the question is, first thing, do you know if this raccoon or these raccoons, are they druids? Because they might be stealing your purified stuff. Like, it might not be just, raccoon stole my stuff. It might be, oh, hey, this stuff has been fixed now. I'm taking it for my own. So that's the first thing you got to figure out. Find out if those raccoons are polymorphed wizards or if they're druids, some kind of magic user. The other thing would be keep them inside. Get a skylight. That way that full moon can still come in and hit, or get a good window, maybe some bounce off of some mirrors. Or put out some stuff that they're going to be much more interested in. Chicken sandwiches. Garbage. It doesn't really have to be fancy. I was going to start making a list of like fancy stuff that you could get raccoons to be interested in. Raccoons like garbage. So you could put some garbage out and let them deal with that. And put a lot, and they'll be worried about like getting it all back to their home, their nest, their den. What do raccoons live in? Their bungalow? I don't know. Let's see. All right. I had a date with a fae that didn't go so well. Can I just get a new name, or do I need to specifically get my old one back? Oh, man. You know what? I had this exact same problem. I was at an event about a year and a half ago, this big masquerade ball, and I gave my name to a fae. They asked me to write it down for them, like it was going to be drawn out of a hat or something for a contest, and so I wrote it down. And then she's like, oh, it's my name now. So if you want, like, if you're attached to that name, what you have to do is you're going to have to start going around and finding other fae to trade with until you get something that fae wants in exchange for your name. If you're not too keen on your name, go to the courthouse and just get it legally changed. That's easier in some places than others. But if you do that, then you'll not have to worry about it. And that name, the other name, will no longer have power. So that person, they might come back. I don't know if you were looking, like if it did not go well because of you, because of them, because of the vibe. I don't know what it is, but like if you would like them to come back so you could maybe chat with them again, killing that one off. That name, not the fae, killing that one off, because if you try to kill off a fae, you're going to start like a whole royal thing. There's going to be a war fought over it. They're real big about their hierarchies and stuff. So you kick that name out, it doesn't have power anymore, and then that fae might come back to see you again and be like, hey, what's up with this? And then you can maybe strike up conversation, misconnection kind of thing. I am an aspiring wizard, and I accidentally turned my friend into a creepy doll when I was trying to magically change her hair color. How do I reverse a spell like this? I tried your standard curse breaking already, and it didn't work. So, boy, that's tricky. Because obviously you did something that's much more powerful than what you were intending. So you were trying to change your hair color. You changed Oliver on a cellular level. That's a big deal. So it's going to have to be a way more powerful curse breaking spell than what you think. You're probably going to have to do a ritual. You're going to have to get a handful of people involved in it. If you think about, some games put spells at like circles and stuff. That's not right. But there is an element to how long it takes you to learn a spell and how powerful you got to be and how long you've had to have been a practitioner. So you got to figure out what spell you did do, because obviously you didn't do the spell you meant to, but you still did a spell. You just did something, and it's probably what your focus should be. Odds are you probably found your focus on accident. You're like, oh, I'm a transmutation wizard because you transmuted this person into a creepy living doll. So getting an understanding of what spell you did, and then finding out, well, normally how long would it take someone to do that? And then I would suggest, if you find out that, like, oh yeah, man, it would normally take someone 20 years to be able to do that, I would say you're going to need at least one practitioner to help you with this anti-curse spell for every 4 to 5 years it would take someone to learn. So if it's like 20 years, you're going to want 4 or 5 people to, counting yourself, to take part in this ritual to undo the curse. So a good like 4 to 1, 5 to 1 ratio will help out there. Rick, do you have any fun hobbies? I mean, I collect crystals. Um, you'd be amazed what kind of stuff magically not only can be stored in crystals, but the stuff that people hide in them, the stuff that they can hold, the stuff they can transfer. Now, I know what you're thinking. All these things I'm listing, they're almost the exact same thing, but they're really not. You know, because moving something ain't the same as holding, like a jail can hold somebody. Jail can't move somebody. A lake can contain somebody. It can't hold somebody unless they're a bad swimmer. So there's a lot of things crystals can do, and I really like them. Specialize in them, and they can, you know, swap things between people if they're touching the same crystal, or uh, pass energy, or just all kinds of stuff. Um, let's see here. Rick, what is your favorite crystal? Oh, my favorite crystal. I'm trying to. My problem is I'm starting to get into a rhythm here of like, oh, I'm in front of people, and my impulse was like, oh, Rick, what's your favorite crystal? Meth. It's not though, but I thought it'd be, kind of funny. Um, I think my favorite crystal is probably the ones that can contain souls. I've never seen one. I know they exist. Uh, I've had some encounters with people who have owned one, or who at one point or another had their soul put into one. I think it'd be really cool. I want to know what it's like inside the crystal. Um, I kind of wonder if it's like uh, Thanos and like seeing his daughter. You know, I think he was inside of the crystal there. Is that what it's like? Is there like a little liminal space for you to hang out in? Uh, that question's not for me. How many beds? How many beds? What? Well, I'm gonna check this document now and see if bub up bub bub up bub. Answered that. I answered that. I answered that. Here we go. I'm gonna delete all of these. They've been answered already. Boom. I keep getting awoken in the middle of the night by a blood curdling scream, and written on my wall in blood is the message: "We have been trying to reach you about your extended warranty. I am already on the do not conjure list. How can I stop this?" All right, so here's your problem. You're not being conjured. So that's the big thing. You know, they're not breaking that technically because they're not summoning you to a place. Um, this is much more of a this is almost a haunt. You're kind of being, you're not being haunted, but it's a we often call spells that are set up in a place that kind of trigger on an event a haunt because it makes a thing happen. And it keeps happening to you over and over again, kind of at the same time. That's definitely a haunt. So odds are that an insurance salesman or one of these scammers or a car dealership died in your bedroom. And that's their haunt now. It's just, it keeps happening. That's not actually someone new trying to reach you. That's someone who's dead calling out from the other side, trying to get their final piece of business done. So there's a chance that if you were to extend your car's extended warranty, that might release them. You could smudge the room, that might get rid of it. You could sell your car. If you sell your car, make sure on that same wall before you go to bed, in blood, it can be whatever, chicken blood. It can be fake blood. Most people don't realize that. If it's good stage blood, it can be fake blood. Write the number of the person who now owns the car, whether it's a dealership or a person, and then all those will be forwarded to them. Do you have your own grimoire or series of notebooks with spells for sale? I don't. So, it gets real tricky because people are real personal about their spells. Um, someone's grimoire, it's got a lot of their ideas in it, or it's got um, the things that they tried before it worked properly. They might even have little scribbles of other spells that they're trying to create. Like, everybody thinks about spells that you get, but nobody really thinks about the fact that someone had to make that spell. And that's kind of the harder part of being a wizard, is like, oh, well, what do I want to leave behind? Like, what's my mark on this community? And so a lot of people get to a point, kind of like where if you're really good at your craft, a lot of people want to transition into teaching for a while because they want to, like, oh, I want to pass this on. Same thing with making a spell. Like, you want to create something to leave behind. Um, so that's what imbues a grimoire or a spell book with a lot of its power, is that intensity, that focus, that passion, whatever. So I could copy out a bunch of spells for you and sell it to you, but it's not going to be magical in and of itself. Like, you would not be able to use that as a focus, um, because it's not yours. They would give you the information for the spell. You would still have to do all the practice and stuff, but it's never going to be as powerful as someone's spell book or grimoire who has made it themselves, and jotted all their their notes and their adventures and their thoughts on different kinds of magic and stuff like that. It's the intent that really makes those things powerful. San Francisco, I'm there right now. Any magic I can do to make it less humid here? No, there's nothing to be done about humidity. You know, it's gross. I don't like it. You know, especially when you've got nice robe or nice hat or something, and it's just wet out, but also hot. I don't like it. But no, unfortunately, there's nothing you can do to get rid of humidity. God knows I've tried. Um, my roommate won't do the dishes ever. Is there some sort of hex that can help us? Absolutely. You can hex their food. This gets tricky because I don't know if you share food with your roommate. But you can put a hex on, like, say, they always eat a sandwich and they always use a knife and a plate. And so you hex their bread and you put just a little bit of a love hex on it. So they touch that bread and the first thing they see is the plate and the knife. And they're like, "Oh, I kind of love this thing." And that in turn makes them want to keep it nice and clean, so they'll wash it. I think it's a little dangerous though, because if they're like, I a friend of mine tried this with bread on his roommate, and the roommate only ate like half the loaf, and then he took the rest of it down to the pond and fed it to the ducks. Those ducks followed him around for the next. It must have been 13 years. Boy, you wouldn't think ducks would live that long, but something about the magic and that enchanted bread, and those ducks just fell in love with him. he became the duck whisperer. Um, it was cute, but well, boy, there was crap everywhere. So be careful with your hexes, because if someone you want to make sure only is going to target that person, because if it gets passed on to someone else accidentally, you never know the ramifications from that. Oh, let's see here. Okay. Um, Novice Witch here. My brother went for a walk in the woods and was gone for a long while. When he came back, he was totally different, and I think he was replaced with a changeling. Do you have any advice for how to test if he was replaced, or if he was, how can I get him back? All right, so there's a lot of misconception about changelings and how they can work. Um, it again turns into this kind of fey prankster thing. Odds are, if you do have a changeling for a brother now, you're stuck with him. He's been whisked away to a magic land where he might be being forced to marry into a royal family. He might be being forced to be like the jester. Um, Fae really like human jesters for some reason. I don't. It might be like a Pagliacci thing. Like, oh look, he's so sad, it's funny. I don't know. Um, so first, I would check the vibe and see how do you get along with this changeling. Because if it's a good vibe, the other thing that's nice that you can do with a changeling, like they grab memories and stuff like that, but it's a lot to roll through. And so when they try to like connect those thoughts and connect those dots and make that relationship work between the other person, they're pretty susceptible to suggestion. So if you're like, oh yeah, one of my favorite things about you is how you always help me clean my room after school, and they'll be like, yeah, you're right, that is one of your favorite things about me, and then they'll help you do that. So there is a way that you can kind of help shape really the best relationship that you could have with a sibling, because the things that you kind of suggest, they'll take to heart, and so that'll be real nice. There's a couple people in my life I would love to swap out with a changeling. Um, what's your favorite popcorn topping? I may be making popcorn while listening to your very sage advice. I don't know if it's technically a topping. I love chocolate with my popcorn. I know they make like chocolate covered popcorn, and that's okay. But I like sitting in a movie theater and having like, oh hey, popcorn, and then you throw with the other hand some chocolate in your mouth. That's what I like. Um, Bunch of Crunch, my favorite. Uh, how do I turn off automatic spell check? I do not want to keep calling my dad when I'm trying to contact the dead. Yeah, so what I would do is I'm gonna ask you a follow up question. To this, are you using your phone as the focus to contact the dead? If you're still here in chat, let me know. That way I can address this more specifically. Because if you're using your cell phone as the device to talk to the dead, it's going to be a different answer than if you're trying to contact the dead, like through a ritual or a summoning circle, uh, and uh, and you're getting your dad through that. And then also, is your dad dead? Because if your dad is dead, and you're getting him, you may subconsciously want to be talking to him when you. Again, that's a whole other thing. So, get back to me on that. All right. My friends and I are trying to retrieve a client's sympathetic link from a maze-like vault that is guarded by a minotaur. Any advice on dealing with it? Learn the pattern. Like it sucks. But you gotta learn Minotaur's pattern. Like it really does spend a lot of time just kind of walking the same thing. Like, if you ever have the opportunity to watch one, it's just They just walk. And it's like people walking the mall. They get in there and they kind of go dead-eyed and they walk. So learn the Minotaur's pattern if you can. That's going to make going through the maze real slow. Uh, I don't know if that's something you necessarily have time for. If you do, that's the best way to do it. If you notice right away that the Minotaur is not doubling back, just wait till he passes and then follow him. Because that's the thing. That Minotaur is not going randomly. Like, he's on a path and he knows the path. And eventually he's going to go back to the middle. So if you can safely get behind him, if you've got an invisibility shroud or you've got a spell of non-detect, something that you can use to get behind that Minotaur and follow him, he'll lead you right to the middle. That would be the way that I would do it if you have that option. If you don't, find something real stinky. Like a slime made of just real gross stuff. And I don't mean like a slime, like just a slime, but I mean like an active, alive slime. And set it loose and let it crawl away, and the Minotaur is going to be drawn to that. You want something that's stinkier than you, because that Minotaur is going to use that nose, and he's going to track it down. So maybe even let out a handful of them. That way it gives you more time. And string. Oh man, anytime you know you're going into a maze, bring string. That you don't need magic for that. Bring string. Okay, so back to the cell phone. My dad is alive, but yes, using the phone as a focus. Okay, so in that case, get a burner is what I would do. Um, there's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong with talking to the dead. If you've ever seen that Nightmare on Elm Street where Freddy's tongue comes through the phone, man, they took that from real life. That was not just some clever writer. That shit can happen. So get a phone that isn't important to you. Get a burner phone and use that to talk to the dead. Because, earlier we talked about acts of God and stuff like that. Uh, man, demon possession of your phone or the dead trying to come through it, that kind of stuff. Your Apple Care not going to cover that. And those things are expensive. So get yourself, boy, if you can find one, get one of those Nokias, one of those old blue bricks, and use that. Boy, use that because they can take it. Let's see here. My mother did some minor necromancy as a hobby, and now she's trying to turn it into a business. How can I help her succeed? Oh, minor. What does she do? If you're still here, what kind of minor necromancy did your mother do? Because is it she like raised the dead, um, or is it because there's some kind of an issue with? The dogs are freaking out. I got some questions over here too. I need to look at those. Where was I? There's dogs barking and got me distracted. Oh yeah, I wanted to know what your mom did necromancy wise. So if you're out there still, let me know because I think that'll help me get some clearer information for you on what you can do to help. My broom was towed from a no-fly zone, but there wasn't any signage saying I couldn't park there. Do you have any legal? Do I have any legal recourse? Um, Boy, there's a lot going on in that sentence. So your broom was towed away from a no-fly zone, but there wasn't any signage saying that you couldn't park there. So am I to assume that you like tied your broom someplace and it was still kind of hovering a bit? That's the case. Um, I think that yep, okay. Uh, I mean, if you got a good broom, it should have an enchantment on it that you can whistle and get it back. Um, Boy, that's sure gonna create a whole lot of problem for the people who took it. Uh, So that's what I would do. Just if you even if you're not sure where it went, find the impound lot. Worst case scenario, you can go outside with a megaphone and do your whistle. If you didn't take the time to set up your custom whistle for your broom, you might have to go to the place that you bought it from or the witch that made it for you and reset, see if they can do a hard reset on it and record a custom whistle for you then, and then call it back to you. Um, I always forget that people may not always be aware of like all the kind of deep features of a broom. So, let's see. I did a lot of online spell blogs, but I always skip the lengthy text about how they developed it and what's going on in their life. Get right to the spell or recipe. Am I at risk of getting cursed? Yes, absolutely. Not because like you're using the spell incorrectly, but wizards who do like blogs and stuff. I don't understand it myself, but there's a deep desire to be uh, to be known on a deeper level by that audience, and so they might have a spell in there in the language of like, okay, so I've read this first part, I'm going to jump down to the spell. If you were to read that full thing, you're unknowingly reading a spell that protects you from the hex that is applied when you read just the spell. I don't know why people have taken to doing that. I don't know if it's because they're taking it personal that they're taking from my teachings, but they're not getting to know me. But yes, absolutely, you are in danger of getting cursed. Let's see here. So the mom who did some minor necromancy as a hobby, she did some death raising, but mostly contact to ask about what people wanted for their funerals, where secret recipes were hidden, etc. But she got a ton of grimoires in a garage sale, and she's getting inquiries from people who want to talk to Elvis. Okay, so there's if you want a nice, simple place for your mom to start with her small necromancy business. Advertising as someone who can help them find things left behind by the dead that you can't find, that's a great way to start. There's all the time people are looking for numbers or codes or account numbers or who knows what all kind of stuff people leave behind, and they don't tell that other person like, oh hey, in case I die, here's where this is at. uh, so you want to make sure that that's the clear signage, like start there. I'll help you find you're missing whatever. Oh, did you have someone who passed away? And one thing that they can do is if you happen to know anybody who works at a funeral home, give them some of your business cards and give them a commission, and just have them keep an ear out, because people, at wakes or at viewings, they'll talk about that kind of stuff like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to deal with this and blah blah blah, and he's got these account numbers and I don't know where he put them, da da da. Get that person to go over after the ceremony, of course, and give them a card like, hey, I got someone I think who can help you find this stuff, because it's a real problem. Make sure, just as you get older, as you get loved ones in your life and stuff like that, make sure you let them know like important passwords and stuff like that, because yeah, man, trying to find those things after the fact is real brutal. Um, is there a way to cast a spell on yourself to make yourself forget that you're a wizard? Yes. I don't know if I need to go into more detail than that, but yeah, like, just you could erase the knowledge of spells. Problem is, you're gonna find stuff. It's gonna be like what was that movie? Endless Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or Spotless Sunshine of the Endless Mind, whatever, that Jim Carrey movie. Uh, you're gonna find stuff lying around, and it's gonna start to spark that. So you can forget. You're not gonna forget for long, because like people are gonna remind you, or like the stuff around your house is gonna remind you. Now, if you want to like forget, you're gonna have to do like a whole Marie Kondo thing and do a deep cleaning, get rid of all your wizard stuff, your your cloaks, your hats, your robes, your spell books, just whatever. And you got to tell people like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. Don't contact me about this. Don't ask me about it. Like this is I don't want to do this anymore. Then you do that spell, and that way you hopefully don't have anything that pops back in and reminds you. Or if you do, it's going to be a much longer time before you get that reminder because those things have got to kind of build up before they force that memory to crack back open for you. Um, I whisked. Hey, I whisked away human's brother to become Pagliacci-esque jester, but it turns out they're depressed. What's like? What's his problem? The Faerun was cool as heck, and he's bumming us out. Um, boy, ask him again. You know, we'll circle back to this. A lot of problems can be solved by open communication. Ask them. Is it that they miss their family? Is it that they thought that they were going to grow up to have a normal life? Is it that they think they look dumb in the Harlequin clothing? Find out what it is that is really bumming them out, and then see if you can solve any of that. Also, and people don't, I'm assuming you're talking about, someone relatively young. When you're young, you're like, oh man, I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna get a job and I'm gonna have all these social responsibilities. It's gonna be super cool. And folks, let me tell you, it's not. It's not cool. It's exhausting. You tell this kid that and be like, you can just live here and have fun and be a fae and be our jester. You don't have to worry about like working for a living or figuring out, all of these other things that people got to deal with on a daily basis. That that might turn them around, or just start getting older jesters because you find people in their late 20s, early 30s, definitely people in their 40s and 50s, they get it and they're going to be like, I'm down. I will come along. So yeah. Um, how does one acquire a reliable familiar? I keep feeding raccoons, but they just won't do my bidding. So, if you don't have a magic spell that does it for you, there's an opportunity where you can find a spell that will summon a familiar, and that feels to me, I don't care for it. I don't like a magic familiar. I want an animal that's real. Um, so it's the same thing as kind of like dogs who can uh, help you out with like emotional stress. Like you don't necessarily know that dog can do it until you've had him for a while. So you want to build up, just get a pet and love it for what it is. And then if it works out that it can become your familiar, that's just a bonus. You know, um, if you want a familiar specifically, get a magical familiar. It's not going to feel the same. But if you have a pet, you love that pet, and then you can do a little bit of training to get them to be your familiar. Uh, that to me is the best way. But not all pets are um, made to be familiars. Just maybe they don't have the attention span, or maybe they don't have the opposable digits to do the things that you want them to do. I really that comes down to a question of what is it that you want out of a familiar. That's important to know what you want out of a familiar. Um, in the wizarding community, is it more shameful to use real magic to be a stage magician or a stage magician faking being a real wizard? It is more shameful to be a real magician doing stage magic. 100%. Boy, if you can fool your way in to like a wizard's council with stage magic, it's impressive because those people know what they're doing. They know their business. But tricking people who don't know any better with real magic that you're doing fake magic, that's like you go to a Ren fair and you see those blacksmith places where you can have a contest to see who can like make the fastest like iron railroad spike dagger, and someone who's done a bunch of smithing just knocks one out. everyone's impressed. But if people knew that was something he'd trained for a long time to do, that's not as impressive. It's just becomes, you know, a little bit of cheating. So the changeling is definitely better and definitely nothing like my brother. He made a perfect whiskey sour. How do I make sure the Fae that took my brother doesn't give him back? They won't, mostly because of pride. They will. They like to get stuff and keep it. They don't really switch stuff back unless, of course, that would like make the situation better for them. And they weren't looking for like they were looking like make sure they don't your brother doesn't get like too funny or clever because then they might if they were like looking for a jester, then that might be a problem. Uh, yeah. All right. So as a reminder, again, I'm here for No Normal Life, the audio drama that tells the story of Lana and Anastasia when they first met. So if you're interested in that, you can go to thecritshowpodcast.com/no normal life. We are 75% of the way there. We've got 8 days. So if you are interested, help us tell this story. You can get more questions answered by your old pal Rick. There's even a tier where you can back the podcast, and I will do a mini episode specifically about your question. So make sure to do that if you haven't joined us yet already. I got time for a couple more questions. This window is open for about 3 more minutes, so if you got them, get them in here, and I'll try to truck through as many as I can. I got that one. I got that one. Right now, I think we're all caught up. Boom. Oh yeah, there's also a bumper sticker letting everyone know that you dialed the wizard. That's me. I'm the wizard. Uh, I mean, look at that. At least one person has joined the Kickstarter since we did this stream. And that ain't nothing. Every little bit helps. All right, I'm watching the chat, seeing if I see any other questions. I've been thinking about crossing into sorcery. Is there a compelling reason to stay wizard rather than transitioning? Okay, so here's the thing. And most people don't recognize this, I think. Sorcery has got a lot to do with lineage. There's a whole element of blood there. So I think you want to take into account what has your family done, what's your family lineage, what kind of stuff can they do, because that's going to strongly change uh, what it is that you're going to be able to do. Is there a chance to get an easy, clickable link? Boy, I don't think Twitter or Twitch lets us post links. Let's find out. But yeah, make sure you know what your family is up to before you switch to sorcery, because you might be stuck doing some kind of specialty that you don't like. Oh, there we go. Hypnotic sheep. I've made a hypnotic sheep once. Polymorphed a mesmerist. Why are people who back the Kickstarter so cool? I mean, they're so cool because they support the arts and artists. There's a lot of artists involved in making something like this. You got people who literally make the art, like you see up over here, of Lana and Anastasia. You got the voice actors. You got the people who are editing it. You got all kinds of artists involved. These are people who do it for the love of the game, who would do it anyway, but we want to try to compensate them a bit for their time and their talent. So that's why they're not even so cool. It's why they're so fucking cool. What would you do for a Klondike bar? Man, not much. There's not enough chocolate for me. It's just a big old brick of ice cream, and I want something more in my frozen treat. So I think that's where I'm going to leave you. So thank you for all your questions. We got 8 days for this left. Make sure you tell folks about it. Share it. We got a nice little trailer out. And, yeah, share it. Hopefully we get a chance to make this, and I'll be back to answer some more of your questions. And, well, yeah. Till then, till next time, look out behind you.